Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you everyone for joining today. We are going to be talking about the predictions for AI in the contact center. And we've got a whole host of content today. It's actually quite exciting. I'm really excited for this one, Natalie. Do you want to give your intro first of all, and then I'll follow you?
Sure. I've been around the contact center for 100 years. It feels that way anyways. I've seen, a lot of evolutions, CRM, ERP, cloud, social, digital, and here we are on the next one, right? And so just like all of them, hype, now we're getting real. And I love that we're going to actually talk about some real stuff today. And, I've been in, lots of different positions, management consulting, Forrester analyst, worked at some vendors. And each one of those experiences just helped me shape how I can really help people kind of understand this crazy space.
Sounds absolutely fantastic. And in our prep for this, I was fascinated by your history and your experience. It's very, I love it. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, you're my new favorite person.
That's good. That's good. So I'm James Russell. Thank you all for joining. I work at Cresta. I work as part of our customer strategy team, so helping customers make sure they realize the value from Cresta to its absolute maximum. I've also been in the contact center industry my entire life, pretty much, right? So I worked at one of the world's biggest outsourcers for about 15 years. In there, I worked across pretty much every type of client you can imagine. And my speciality is in technology for contact centers. So I've spent a long time deploying different types of technology, buying technology in, designing, developing technology, and importantly, supporting with the implementation of that into the operations within contact centers. And the fun fact of me is, while at that big outsourcer, I actually evaluated Cresta as a vendor, bought Cresta and deployed it, and then loved it so much, I called them up and said, hey, can I come and work for you guys? So I've been here for 2 years now. I get to work with pretty much all of our customers, and that's really exciting to me. I love the problem-solving part of what we do. I'm very excited today to talk around how AI is going to change as we move into 2025 for contact centers specifically. As you said, Natalie, it's been a bit of a roller coaster the last kind of 12, 18 months, right? I certainly joined Cresta at the right time for that big boom that you were talking about. Now, as we see the boardrooms kind of settle and kind of go, okay, yeah, we've now, bought some AI, or we now kind of know what we want. It feels like 2025 is going to be the big year where it actually, the rubber meets the road, as it were.
I think you're right. I think it's, and that's like typical, right? So if anyone's out there and they're listening, they're kind of like scratching their head and going, wait a minute, what did I buy? Did I really get what I wanted? How does this work now? I think everybody's kind of in the same boat. Maybe people won't say it out loud, but I think that's kind of, and it's a typical, because I've gotten to see the cycle so many times with so many new techs. It's pretty typical. So even though it's uncomfortable, right, it just is what it is, and now we go forward.
Yeah, it's one of those big change moments, right? Like, everyone talks such a big game about AI, and there's been such bold claims made all over the industry. I'm sure everyone on the call's seen something ridiculous and outlandish at some point, and there's always some kind of truth in some of those pieces. So I think we're going to dig into some of that today. So Cresta has been working with some industry leaders like yourself, Natalie, and others to get some of those predictions of what different people think is 2025 is going to look like for the AI contact center. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk to Natalie about what your predictions are. We're going to chat through some of mine as well and have a bit of a discussion around that. And then we're going to bring 4 kind of industry leaders and experts in. We've got some recorded videos. And then we'll have a chat, Natalie, around what those opinions are, what our thoughts on those are, which of those we think might come true and which maybe are outlandish, as we were talking about before. And then we'll have a little bit of a chat around, what can the people that have come to watch and listen to us today, what can they do with some of this information, and how can they take advantage of that as we close out today. So with that, I will throw it over to you to hear what your thoughts are for 2025, Natalie.
Well, I think the first thing, so I wrote a book about empathy, so I'm pretty passionate about that. And just to give context, it doesn't mean kumbaya factories or pizza parties, which could, that word has a lot of connotations. And I think it's kind of the opportunity to really listen to what our customers and employees are feeling and thinking. Because the truth is, and this has been true throughout my career, the employees know what's not working. They know where the friction points are. They know what's frustrating. They know what could be better if, but we don't ask. We just, as leaders, go, yeah, we know, we're so smart, we got this. And so that opportunity to really spend the time and energy, and part of what I'm really excited about is the analytical capabilities of AI to really look at the quality assurance. So it's tended to be a very, very manual process. And so those golden nuggets, those canary in the coal mine moments that you may or may not know that are directly affecting everything in your business. And so if we kind of work backwards, for me, as I think about this, that could be a really cool place to start. Because if you truly understand what's not working, and then you read this, and what a concept, right?
No, right? Crazy to think we might be able to do that. Yeah, for
Right,
sure.
to actually know what's going on in your business. But rather than being reactive, go in there, spend a month or so looking at that content in January and going, huh, well, that's interesting. We didn't know this, we didn't know this, and then we didn't know this. And use that to create your strategy and your planning docs in late December or January. And then start to think about, okay, so now we know what employees think. What about customers? And really using the AI to understand in ways that we've never done before, beyond sentiment, but just really getting at those root causes. And then that combination of those two, I think, are going to be really, really powerful ways to truly transform an experience that is so pivotal, right? I just had we were talking about a shared customer experience, and it's fascinating, right? Like, especially someone like me who and you that have been in the industry forever. I'm a horrible customer. I know how this stuff is done, and I
Yeah.
know when you're not doing it well. And so, I don't know. I just hope 2025 is the year of the best experiences ever.
I love that. And I love your thought around the agent experience as well, rather than just the customer experience, right? Like I see a lot of detail. Everyone on this call will as well, I'm sure, of, hey, AI is the cost saver, right? We can get rid of people and we can replace agents with virtual agents and all of this type of thing. And there's absolutely a place for that. But I think we probably don't talk enough, and I don't see enough around, hey, we can make agents' lives better here, right? Like we can really enhance that experience for them, because ultimately, as been proven multiple times, I'm sure you've seen it as well, happy agents make happy customers, right? Like that's a fact of life. So if we can make their lives better and easier and actually target the problems that they're seeing, I think that's a really valuable viewpoint in terms of where we can go. And I would be very excited to see that happen in 2025, because I think the impact would be huge on that for sure.
And to me, so sometimes I think leaders separate themselves from the agent, right? Well, the agent's having this problem. Well, no, your business is having this problem.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not just about that the agent, doesn't have the information or can't see something or has 50 screens open, right? It's about that experience for the agent is clunky or frustrating or incomplete, means that you can't deliver a great experience. Customer experience cannot be any better than the employee experience.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And whether it's a bot or whether it's a human or a combination, like this goes back to like how we're designed as humans, right? How we want to be seen and heard and acknowledged. And you see oftentimes in digital media or social media, people crying out because it's like, what they're really saying is, you don't get me. You could have had me at hello, but you didn't do it. And it's so simple, but it takes that forethought. It takes that, like, okay, how are we going to design what we're doing so that people feel like they matter? And it's not like giving things away or I did this whole big project with a service delivery, and we actually changed the languaging. And it's not necessarily about saying I'm sorry and all this flowery, crazy language. It's like, I'm contacting you for something. Help me. Actually help me.
Actually help me solve the problem that I've got. I like it. Novel concept, right? Novel concept.
There's this department called customer service.
Amazing. Well, I think that's really interesting, and whilst I agree with you, I have a lot of hope that that is a true prediction for 2025, because I think the impact of that will be profound, right? Both for customers, for staff, for colleagues, and fundamentally for the customers as well, right? Like, and how they can start to enjoy that experience of customer experience instead of it all being negative.
And you think about it, that's the department in the company that's delivering happiness. Like, truly, right? It's like, think about every single interaction. Like, I worked with brands that have 300,000 interactions a day. So take that one brand times the gazillion brands, how many interactions a day? Like, we're just creating so much cognitive dissonance in the world by not helping people. When we put up a moniker and we say, we're customer service, we can help you. No, not really.
Not really. Wow.
Yeah.
I can get on board with that for sure. For sure. I think that's really interesting. And I think, you know, the prediction that I'd sat down and thought about in advance of this is not dissimilar for yours, maybe targeted in a slightly different area, but I think ultimately gets to a very similar goal. So where I've seen over my time and experience in contact centers is we focus a lot on the agent, right? And tools for the agent and how we support those. And even in the AI space and Cresta as well, you know, agent assist is the bread and butter, right? That's a big part of how we can impact on those experiences that we give to customers, on that agent experience as well. I think the piece that I'm most excited for, and my prediction for 2025, targets the supervisor tier, that team leader level. And I think what I've seen from my personal experience is that persona within the contact center has kind of been left behind a little bit, particularly over the last 10 years, right? If I look at what I was doing as a team leader 15 years ago, 16 years ago now, compared to what a team leader has to do today, that list of daily activities has just increased and increased and increased and increased. And the targets have gone up and up and up, and the pressure is growing all the time. And then we've moved it all to work at home. So like the majority of supervisors in the space now, particularly onshore and nearshore, like they've lost that support network of like being able to go and speak to people. And I think they've been left behind is how I think about it. I think what AI brings, and in that same vein where you were looking at, you know, having that qualitative data across and quantitative data across all of your interactions to understand where the pain points are, I think being able to aggregate that data and give it to a supervisor in a way that goes, hey, here's where you should spend your time today. This is what you should, these are the agents you need to go and speak to. Here's what you need to go and speak to them about. Don't go and do 4 hours of call listening. We'll tell you which calls and where in that call the problem is, and then you can use that to go and inform how you're going to support that agent. And that, for me, we're starting to see like the green shoots of this supervisor efficiency and effectiveness improvement over the last 12 months. And I think that's where businesses are going to be able to capitalize most effectively on where AI is today. The accuracy improvements that we've seen over the last 2 years of being able to have enough confidence that it's 70, 80% right all of the time kind of thing. Like that means that a supervisor can now change their workflow and be able to rely on the information they're being given. And it means that they don't have to be data scientists anymore. They don't have to be Excel wizards being able to work out all of the different performance metrics. And the biggest piece for me, and the final part of my thoughts here are, it's really exciting to see the trends that we've seen now. And I think this is going to explode in the next like 3 to 6 months. For all of history, supervisors have managed on the outputs. So we go, what's the conversion? What's the resolution rate? What's the average talk time, right? That's after the fact, after the interaction. Those are the outputs. now for the first time, we can see what the inputs are to that conversation, the words that agents are doing, the questions they're asking customers, how customers are responding to that. And I think the shift and the ability that AI has given us to give supervisors this insight, this actionable intelligence, that actionable intelligence is going to be pointed at the inputs to a conversation. And if I flow that through to connect our two predictions together, perhaps a little clumsily, like it's that type of enablement and empowerment that we can give to our supervisors that's going to fundamentally change the agent experience. No longer are they going to get, shouted at because their conversion's down. It's, hey, if you do these things on these calls, that will lead to your conversion improving. And that ownership that it gives to the agent, that it's in their power what words they use. It's not always in their power whether a customer buys or not at the end of the conversation, but if they use the right words and say the right things as they're being advised to, then that helps to drive that agent experience as well, because it empowers them, right? It emboldens them, and it means that it's within their control. So that whole shift of supervisors finally being kind of brought up to speed along with the analysts and the agents and all the other personas that we've focused on for so long, that's what I think is going to happen in a big way. And I think AI is going to help us to have a mindset shift in the industry and start to make it easier to support and enable agents to be better at their jobs and to have better conversations with customers.
And so here's what's fascinating to me, right? So 2 years ago, the whole like hullabaloo started with AI, and it was like going to get rid of all the humans. We're still here. And in fact, if we don't have us, you can't run the business. And our conversations are really about human to human interactions. It's the human, like in us, that when we call and we need help, or we text or we chat, right? We're humans looking for help. Yep. And then we're looking for the technology or the other human on the other side. And so whether it's the technology gets designed by a human is still involved, or whether the human is answering the customer's interaction, there's still humans.
Absolutely.
And so what I get really excited about is the opportunity for AI to empower humans, right? And so I feel like we're going through a redirect with respect to like get rid of all the humans to, okay, now let's think about this. How can we really help the people that do these jobs? How can we help them to do it better? And so maybe that's the front end where, the self-service bots or chats actually work and resolve a bunch of stuff. But then how do we, when we do have human interactions, and I love some of the predictions that we have, because there have been people that'll say, I remember 10, 15 years ago when they said with self-service, we're going to get rid of the agents. Didn't happen. I don't think that's going to happen. I could be wrong, but I don't think that's going to happen again. I think there's going to be more agent interactions, because we can actually, whether the supervisor is helping or the AI is helping, the agents can actually answer questions.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly right.
So if I'm a customer, we've taught customers to not trust chatbots, right? Or like question, maybe, you interact with the chatbot, you're not quite sure. So you're like, okay, I'm going to call 2 just to double check. But if I have a choice between that or talking to a human that I know is going to give me the answer, guess what I'm going to pick? I'm going to pick the human that's been empowered.
Yeah, for sure. Why wouldn't you, right? Like, why wouldn't you? Exactly.
Thanks, Russell. Do you think anybody can hear us?
It's crazy. So yeah, this concept of human-centric AI, right? I think we're both very aligned in that, and certainly for 2025, right? It's that, how can we use AI to make people more effective or more efficient at the role that they're playing? And I think that's really interesting, and not something that you necessarily see everywhere on LinkedIn and on all the blog posts and things. I actually wrote a blog post, I think it got published last week, talking around how to adopt AI into the contact center to support those people. And what I talked about there is what I really like around the transformations that are involved when it comes to deploying AI is specifically you don't have to change everything that you're already doing, right? And this is kind of goes to the theme of what we've been talking about here. You know, you can take your coaching motion, you can take your quality process, you can take your, you know, call review process, and you can just pull AI into that process and let it help you with that. And then you can start to go and improve and iterate and change that process over time. It's not a complete kind of have to rewrite everything all overnight. And I think for me, that's what makes this and these concepts that we're talking about more accessible, right? It makes it so that it feels scary, right? AI is a thing that, like, you know, 2 years ago, I didn't really know what it was, right? Like, you know, I talked about it and I talked a good game, but like, didn't really understand what the nuts and bolts of generative AI meant or any of those things. And I think there's still a lot of people like that in the world today, which is fine. But I think we've got to make sure that it's accessible to people so they can realize some of these things that we're talking about, and make sure that the education's there and that the support and enablement is there as well, which, and this wasn't planned, comes full circle to that empathy piece that you talked about right at the start, right? That you literally wrote the book on, right? It's about making sure that people feel comfortable and can access and have that accessibility to these concepts that we're talking about.
It's applied empathetic AI, right? And so we can talk about these like gigantic sweeping statements, right? 95% efficiency or effectiveness, or to me, it just sounds like blah, 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 AI, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you don't understand. I run a contact center. You know, it's like I have stuff I have to do every single day and I need help. So break it down, make it simple, right? Tell me, what are the steps I need to do in order to take this new thing and integrate it into the 500 things I'm already doing?
Mm-hmm.
And I get that I have to slow down to go fast, but I can't slow down too much because the train has left the station.
Exactly.
And you need to really help me. And I think marketing in AI is really education. It's hand-holding. It's like saying, okay, here's the concept. Okay, now let's step you through step by step by step. Here's the little tiny bits that you can do. And I love your example with the supervisors, right? And you were a supervisor. So go back to the empathy conversation. If we ask James, when your persona was the supervisor, right? James, what's not working in our business? You would have a list of 5,000 things that would be freaking brilliant. Probably nobody asked, or if they did, it wasn't complete, right?
Yep.
And did most of those things get implemented, right? And so those are the golden nuggets and often the canary in the coal mine things that if somebody had just talked to James and said, James, what do you see? Your eyes, your ears, your emotions, you see every single day the stuff that's not working. Could you share with us what you see? And so that's the practice of tell me more as leaders, is there are people who can solve our biggest problems. We just have to be willing to hear and to ask.
Absolutely. That speaks to me on a deeply personal level as I think back to some of those years I spent in the contact center. And I think, you know, to close this out, I think AI has the opportunity, and we have the opportunity as users and leaders in the space to really use AI to take advantage of AI to help enable exactly that conversation, right? Empowering those supervisors, those agents, giving them the data they need to be able to go, hey, here's the problem. Here's what it looks like. Help me fix it, please. Or here's my idea of how to fix it.
Right. I'm not complaining. I'm saying, I'm sharing because I care.
Exactly.
Sharing is caring. I'm telling you this because I can't do my job. And then if I can't do my job, my agents can't do my job. And if all of us could not do our job, then guess what? The customers don't get what they want. And they'll just, you know, at some point their patient goes, patience, not.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm out of here. Right? So,
yeah.
Right? Loyalty, bye-bye.
For sure. As much as I'm absolutely loving this discussion, I will get shouted at if we don't hear some other people's predictions, which is what we've promised everyone. So I think we should move into watching some other folks' predictions. I'm going to start us off with Lan Guan from Accenture. Let's see what Lan.
First and foremost, it's this agentic AI. Okay, so AI agents are here to stay. So I think how agents work with humans, right? Human employees in contact center is going to be something really big that we need to be paying attention to. The way that I describe AI agents, they're pretty remarkable. Okay, they are autonomous AI agents which come with pre-planning capabilities. Okay, and all these AI agents are also intelligent enough to actually be able to do self-reflection, right? Have the chain of thoughts, kind of a reasoning capabilities, and then also agents' ability to take actions is something that exactly what we need in contact center. So still fast evolving kind of technology, but I think AI agents in year 2025 in contact center is something that we need to be paying very, very close attention to. I think the second, technology trend that, which is pretty remarkable is actually domain-specific model. I think earlier we talked about how a lot of our contact center clients, they started using pre-built models, right? From the different cloud providers. And then now they realize their enormous amount of proprietary data, institutional knowledge, right? Unstructured documents, all of these things that they consider as their core competency, could be their trade secrets, could be their IPs, right? Now they want their own model, right? Their own custom model to be able to leverage a lot of this unique data, unique IPs that they have. And I think contact center is a fertile ground, right, for this kind of model customization, simply because contact center is customer interaction channel. All the customer touch points, a lot of them happen here. So for contact center clients to leverage their proprietary data, train their own specific model, I think this is a technology trend that, again, I'm paying very, very close attention to. The third, prediction, getting me excited is digital human. Digital human technology in contact center, we have gone through multiple rounds of this. But I think, again, because of the Gen AI technology, the progression of the technology now, you can actually make, photorealistic, digital humans. And obviously experience is super important. So digital humans' ability to reduce the clunkiness, right, in the interaction because of the optimized performance in the model, better coordination between the digital humans, the audio and facial expression, audio and gestures, all these things that we did not do quite well in the past, now has significantly improved. So again, that's why my prediction is digital human in contact center, working side by side with AI agents and also with human employees, right? This kind of way of working is going to be fundamentally different.
Well, there we go. Three bold, I think, predictions from Lan there, who's the Chief AI Officer, by the way, at Accenture. So the concept of the AI agent, I think that might be a theme of our predictions, if I guess correctly. A pretty hot topic at the minute in terms of, with the rise of generative AI, the ability to have much more natural language bots, having to put less of your structured flow in and kind of have that decision tree anymore in that interaction is obviously making that super accessible. We've got the concept of big data, right, which is a really interesting one. I spent a lot of time processing data in my career, and this now ability that AI has brought, where we have the transcript of every conversation, we've got every interaction that a customer has all in one place, this plethora of data. And what Lan was saying is she thinks that people are going to want to build their own models based on all of that highly customized, highly proprietary data. And then the third piece is digital humans, which, if I picked her up rightly, is talking around this concept of putting a face on the AI, right? And having that emotion, that ability to interact with a human-like interface, despite it being AI underneath. I'll let you go first, Natalie. I guess pick one or talk about all of them. What are your thoughts on what Lan has to say?
I think the agentic AI is really interesting. I mean, I think they're all incredible predictions. The agentic one for me, because I've been through so many launches of technology evolutions, the idea that a chatbot could actually help you, right, would be freaking amazing. And if you look back at, rule-based types of chatbots, I mean, the issue is, unless you have a super simple business that's a yes or no, the flow tree that you have, right? If this, then this, right? And then what are the gazillion different utterances of just yes and no? And what are the implications of a yes and what are the implications of a no? To be able to try to create that tree of decision and then have the technology be able to begin to mimic what a human would do. It was nice that we went down that path. It sounded good when we said it fast, like it was really going to do the job. In retrospect, it didn't. Maybe that's part of what got us to where we are here today was, you see the problem, you go, okay, it would be better if we could solve this. So I think it helped us on the evolution. I think in terms of customers, it would be really amazing to get your questions answered, right? And so if the technology can truly do that, I think that'll be really cool. I think where the question that I have are, what if the chatbot makes up a story, right? And I know that was right. Like it goes a little bit off or a lot off the rails. And there's been a couple examples of selling a car for $1, a truck for $1, right? Because you figured out how to game the system. And I think that maybe goes into what she was talking about is proprietary LLMs, right? So in order to have the questions answered, you need to have all the right information, right? And that's the implicit, explicit wisdom and knowledge from your agents and your interactions. It's all the stuff in your knowledge base, which probably isn't up to date or current, right? And all those documents, right? So there's a whole
all over the place.
And there's, like Post-it notes that the agent figured out, which is the right answer, the best answer. There's stuff from marketing, right? So you launch a new product, call center takes the call, marketing saying this, but this isn't, and the contact center gets this. So there's like communication, there's supply chain issues. Where's my product? Quality issues, my product broke. So there's so much information that impacts the customer. And in order for that agent to be able to truly answer a question, the question I have is, how do we design the LLM? How do we train the LLM? And then how do we become assured? Like, I get the principle of a walled garden, which just means that you put rails around, what you're doing with AI. So those are my thoughts.
Well, so I'm going to give you my thoughts in the frame of a question because I want to know what you think of my thoughts. Do you think we're there yet? Or do you think companies have just got excited about ChatGPT, right? And we're going to go use an OpenAI API and create a generative AI chatbot. And yeah, we're going to train it on some of our data and our knowledge base, and we'll see if it works. Because that's kind of what I think people are doing right now. So whilst I agree that where we need to get to is probably these hyper-personalized small language models, if that's the right phrase to use, right? That's very customer specific, trained only on my data. I think that is the right place where we're going to end up. What are you seeing right now? Like, are you seeing companies go down that route, or are they going down the let's just go buy some third party and plug it in and see what happens?
I see a little bit of everything, right? And so it depends on who's helping them. And depends on what the person who's helping them is trying to sell them.
Fair point.
So there's a little bit of an agenda there. I've worked with a hotel chain that started out just using like a ChatGPT kind of like build your own, ran into some issues. in the very beginning, I don't think people knew about the walled garden concept, or they thought, well, if I can get a recipe out of it or a flight plan or, like rewrite my blog post, I don't know that people saw the need for the guardrails, especially if you're in healthcare or particular industries where it's really important to figure out that you're answering things super accurately. So I think there are some people that are doing that. Small businesses are trying to figure out, how do I do this? Because they're hurting, right? Because they need a call center, but they can't, right? And so it just seems like, well, we'll just have, Claude or OpenAI answer it. But there's a whole set of, oops, we didn't know what we didn't know. Some gotchas, right? And then I think I see the resurgence of IT, right? So AI is kind of a black box. People like you and I, sat down and said, okay, I've been in this industry a long time. I'm going to read, I'm going to study, I'm going to understand this. I'm going to like embrace it because it's the next thing. But not everybody has the time or the desire to do that. And so one of the things I see is IT departments building their own internal LLMs, right? So, and then at the same time, they may be using a vendor product, right? Because vendors have their own special sauce of whether they use a range of LLMs or they have their own, right? That's always like an interesting how that all works. Like, what's the menu? I want to see the Chinese menu of what you're doing here.
Exactly.
Right?
It's always a hodgepodge, right? Like there's always like 17 different things that have kind of been pieced together to try and get where they are. And I think that brings with it some benefits, perhaps some more challenges that maybe, to your point, maybe people aren't aware of the challenges that they don't know about, right? Christy says in the chat, to the point around the hallucinations that we were talking about a minute ago, there's lots of methods and tools and processes now that you can put in place to really minimize the risk of hallucinations, which is a totally valid point. I think we do have to consider, though, that particularly in that small business example that you've given, I can't expect the mom and pop store down the road to have spent the last 2 years keeping up to date with the latest and greatest in terms of tools. And to your point around vendors, there's a lot of vendors out there targeting those smaller businesses, looking for that quick buck to go, hey, this is out of the box, it's super easy. I think that represents a real risk that I want people to be aware of for sure. I'm going to do very quick. I got a hot take on the digital humans piece, and then we'll move on to our next video. This is a bit of a bold thing to go against the chief AI officer at Accenture. I disagree that that's a 2025 success that's going to happen, right? I think the concept that we've played around with a lot, particularly in the last couple of years, to kind of put this face to AI, I just don't see the receptivity from people. And honestly, again, not deliberate, but I think it goes back to the thing you wrote the book on, right? It's that lack of empathy that you get. So when we humanize and anthropomorphize these AI things, these conversational tools, I think that has a high risk of either putting customers off or creating a false sense of trust. We want customers to know what it is that they're interacting with, who it is that they're talking to, and treat that information with the appropriate level of respect that it deserves. But that's my thoughts. Who knows which of us is right? But yeah, thought I'd get my views out on that. Okay, so next up, let's hear from Justin Robbins, who's the Principal Analyst at Metric Sherpa. Let me load his video in here. There we go.
With your deep expertise of the contact center, how do you see AI shaping the future of the contact center in 2025?
Okay, so I don't know if this is going to be what you're going to expect, but this is the real way that I actually see it shaping right now. Number one is it is forcing on the knowledge management side, just how we're governing and making sure we've got our house in order from an information standpoint. It is driving fast and furious change and focus. That's the first thing, is how do we make sure we've got the right, just kind of foundation to build all this stuff upon. So that's part one. Part two is the other, again, maybe expected, maybe unexpected, but it's forcing conversations around just human capital in general, how are we thinking about investing in training, developing, maturing the role of humans in service delivery? We all know, no surprise, that we're going to see artificial intelligence and automation in general continue to take more and more of the common, predictable, low volatility type of stuff away. So then how do we elevate? How do we invest in now for what our people's roles will look like on December 31st of 2025? How will the nature of the job be different, and how do you start educating and equipping and preparing today for that? So that's number two. The third and final piece.
Okay, so what what Justin was talking about there, I think we might have had some technical issues with that video towards the end, so apologies if that impacted everyone. Might have just been my terrible internet, I don't know. But what Justin was talking about there, two really interesting points I think that I think everyone else saw. The first is having the right foundation, which I think, Natalie, goes to what we were just talking about, right? In the concept of building out your own LLM and you're kind of piecing together pieces, I think that can be applied to particularly large enterprise and their approach to AI in the contact center specifically. So the right foundations to drive success is what Justin was talking about. And then something that I think we haven't really talked about much today, which is like the training and enablement of people to take advantage of this stuff. We've talked about these huge impacts and benefits of like, it's going to make the agent's life better, which means better conversations with customers. Supervisors are going to have all this plethora of data that they can use to make their lives easier and to be more effective. But Justin raises a very valid point, right? There needs to be a focus on training. I'll let you go first again. What are your thoughts on those two pieces?
We're essentially changing the agent's role, right? So before they were reading from a script. And now we're saying, no, we don't want you to like say somebody's name 3 times, and we don't want you to like apologize 50 times. And by then, you know, that emoji where your hair's on fire, the customer's going, let's answer my question already. Which is, I came up with this thing called the house is on fire, which is when you have a question, do you want like an apology, or do you want someone to say, no, I'll just get the hose for you? And so this concept of how do we help our agents get to the answer, right? And so it goes all the way back to who are we recruiting, right? So we go to recruiting, we go to onboarding, we go to training. What are the expectations, right? Oh, I'm going to, you know, and there's like all this because there's all this dystopian stuff. I'm going to take a job that I'm going to be phased out of because the technology is going to take over. Why would I take that job?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think we see a future where humans will be extremely important, and important in a different way, in an empowered way, where you won't, you know, agents won't hate their jobs anymore. So it's a much more appealing job because you can actually do it. You can act like the people who take customer service jobs want to help. That's their nature. So when we don't empower them with the tools to be able to do that, then they get cynical. They're like, oh, well, the big company doesn't care. Well, I don't know that it's they don't care. It's that the technology has a limit. So, you know, if we really start to think about how can we empower people, we need to go back to who are we recruiting and how are we training them and how are we enabling them? And then at the end of the day, how are we measuring performance?
Yeah, really interesting. I hadn't thought about this for a long time, and you sparked off a whole train of thought in my head around, I don't see as much recruitment these days in the role that I have today, right? So maybe you can provide some insight. Oh, are brands using, you know, the carrot of an AI-enabled role within the recruitment process? Or do you think that's a miss today that maybe we should be thinking about more in the industry?
I think it could be an advantage, but it depends on how you frame it. So if you look at the dystopian, we're going to get rid of all the people, but come and take a job in the meantime that's going to disappear. I mean, I don't know, maybe the workforce is transient and they're all quiet quitting, so they don't care anyways. So there's that.
Also true, yeah.
Right. And so understanding that's the temperature of the employee mindset. And if your employees really do make a difference, which they do, then how are you going to create a brand where you're the magnet for the talent? Right. So what if the recruiting process looked like AI is here? It's a skill that you need to have. Your jobs are not going to be replaced necessarily by AI, but they'll be replaced by people who know how to use AI. Come and join us. We'll educate you. Right. Come and join us and become proficient. Right. And there's I think that what will happen in the job market is there'll be all these other things that you can do because you know this, right? And you'll be able to apply it to other places, because once you kind of get it, then it's not really that different. Depending on the role, it seems very different, but it is. There's some basic things that AI is a tool to help us do things better and more efficiently. So I think it could be used that way. It would be really fun to do a poll of customer service agents, like people applying for jobs and people who are in jobs. And if they would answer honestly, it'd be really cool to take that temperature.
Yeah, I think that is fascinating. And it's interesting to think about AI as a skill, or using AI tools as a transferable skill, right? So an agent that goes into that dead-end job that's going to be replaced by AI, right? But by using those AI tools, does that give them a different skill set that's transferable either to other places in the industry or outside of the industry? That's definitely an interesting thought.
One of the people that did, and I hope everybody checks out the flip book, because there's amazing other people that have given their thoughts. And one of the people that talked about this was the whole idea of agent assist for sales. Right. And so AI to help that. So let's say that you have a natural propensity towards sales and you've been in the contact center and you're good at it. Right. So what if now you learn that in the contact center and then you move over to the sales department?
Yep, absolutely. I think AI, we see that all the time. I see that every day in my job at the minute, right? Those care agents that, haven't got the experience in sales. We're using AI to help them do sales through service and identify those sales opportunities, which teaches them the skill set, which then takes them into the often higher earning, right, sales roles. It's that's not just a prediction. I'm seeing that literally every day today. Fascinating. And to your point around polls and data, I'm going to squeeze in one more video now before we close. Someone I know very well, Robin Gareiss, who is what's her job title? She is CEO and Principal Analyst at Metrigy. Absolutely loves data. I always call her when I need a proof point or a stat of something related to AI or agent assist in the contact center. So let's listen quickly to her predictions, and then we'll close out after that.
I'm Robin Gareiss with Metrigy. And as I sort of pull out the crystal ball and look into 2025, I think we're going to see a very interesting year when it comes to AI in the contact center. The first thing that we're seeing in our research is a growing reliance on AI for generating revenue, even for service and support call. Already, we see about 40% of companies using agent assist to help companies with their agents meeting their sales quotas. So, just being able to use screen pops to tell an agent what to do next when it comes to upsell or cross-sell. In fact, 54% of companies already have sales quotas attached to their service representatives. And I think along these lines, we'll also see AI generating more proactive outreach from the contact center as opposed to reactive or inbound. And I think a lot of that will be to generate more sales or to reduce customer churn, just identifying people who are good candidates for new products or warranties or things like that, but also customers who are at risk of leaving and just proactively reaching out to them and getting them to stay. I think AI will play a big role there. I think AI is going to actually drive more calls to voice, not less, because of how successful voice interactions are when agent assist is in place. Nearly half of companies already say that AI makes it easier for agents to support and resolve voice calls, and another 37% expect it to in the future. So as a result of those efficiency improvements, we're already seeing 82% of companies saying that AI is or will be driving more calls to voice. So kind of counterintuitive to what we were expecting AI to do, deflect calls from voice. But no, now AI is making those agents so effective because of agent assist that they're actually, triage bots are driving more calls to voice, and we're going to see that continue. I think at the same time, though, we will see those AI-powered conversational bots or virtual agents become a bigger part of the workforce. Already, we see companies predicting that 31% of their total workforce will be AI-powered bots by the end of 2025. So if you can kind of look at your total workforce in that way, about 31% will be automated, will be virtual agents. Real easy trend that we're seeing, 80% of companies are going to increase their AI spending, or CX specifically, in 2025. So we'll see more money going into this area. We're also going to see AI free a lot of supervisors when it comes to things like quality management, scheduling, capacity planning, or coaching their agent. Altogether, if you add these all up, it's going to be more than 15 hours per week per agent in time saved by using AI to kind of help augment what they're doing in quality management, to help them more quickly capacity plan in the contact center, even coach their agents. I think we'll see AI do a lot more in analytics so we can make better decisions in the contact center based on what's actually happening, getting input from customers, the whole voice of the customer area. I think we'll see more and more inferred sentiment in 2025, where you're getting, you're getting those customer satisfaction scores even when somebody doesn't respond to a survey. I do think that we'll see, companies being very careful and cautious about their spending, making sure they're getting a return on investment, and just really making sure that what they're doing is driving a business opportunity or solving a problem. I could have gone on this for a long time, but those are some of the predictions that I have on where we see AI in the contact center for 2025.
Well, I promise, and no one will believe me, I promise that this wasn't perfectly planned, but I think Robin just hit almost every single point that you and I have discussed and backed 50% of those up with facts of what she's seeing in the market today. I've been waiting for this whole webinar and in all the prep for this, for someone to come out and say, hey, we're probably going to end up with more voice calls, right? Other than just the conversations that you and I have been having. And I feel vindicated. I feel validated by Robin. Do you have any comments on that before we close out for the group? I think my internet just went a bit skew-iff there.
So just to repeat that, James, what I said was humans always will. So all this dystopian stuff, like, people just stop. Just like, I think Robin's predictions are right. I think humans matter. I think we're going to see more voice calls again, because we talked about, what if you could talk to a human that could help you? What would you do? You'd talk to a human who can help you.
The hottest take in the world, right? Imagine if someone can solve your problem for you when you've got a problem and you call up a contact center. Like, that's the dream, right? And I think it sounds silly, and I know I'm making a joke of it, but like, the positivity that will bring to the customer experience, the agent experience, that now we're empowering these agents to be able to do what they want to do. Fundamentally, that's help people. And I think that's a wonderful thing. And I think if we see those parts of the predictions come through, maybe we'll do a recap in 12 months' time, Natalie, and we'll get everyone back on and we'll review, like, hey, were we right, or were the people on the videos right, or who was right and who was wrong? I think that could be an interesting thing for us to do.
The hits, the misses, and the stuff that we didn't see.
Exactly right. Brilliant. Well, listen, thank you everyone for joining. There's a couple of things that I want to call out. So you should see a pop-up on your screen now, I think, that will link you to the Cresta website, where you can see even more predictions from other industry leaders. We've got some folks from Cresta, some other analysts. I definitely recommend, if you saw some interesting things and you liked what Natalie and I were talking about today, highly recommend going and taking a look at that. If you're in your journey of kind of starting to explore adopting AI in your contact center, I'm going to plug my own blog post from the other day, which again you'll be able to find in the Cresta website, and I think we'll email it out after this as well, which talks to some of the my thoughts on the key kind of steps and processes that you need to do, and the methodology you have to take to really take advantage of AI in the contact center. And the final piece from me before I hand over to you, Natalie, to close us out is thank you, Natalie, for your time today. I've loved all of the prep up to this point and genuinely really, really loved our conversation today, to the point where we ran out of time. So thank you very much. And yeah, really enjoyed today.
Thank you and happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everyone. Have a great rest of the day. Thanks.